if you look at a natural forest, it it can just be left alone because all of the functions will are cyclical, and a hurricane force is going to influence the biological regeneration of the next generation of those trees. Whereas in an urban condition, those natural forest conditions aren't the same. So you have trees that are exposed to high winds because there's not a continuous canopy coverage that lifts winds over. And so it's again taking our ability as cognitive human beings and applying them to best management and stewardship practices and principles. So again, Treesources is the spearhead of this type of work, which forges a path for a much larger collective organization that has global reaching impacts.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Going Out Looking In, the podcast about the big questions of life, personal growth, and spirituality. My name is Maxi, I'm your host, and today I got a special episode for you. You're probably gonna be like, okay Maxi, it's something you probably can say about every episode, and that might be true to a certain extent. They're all special. And this one is just special to me, to my heart. And I already feel it just now talking about it and moving into this introduction. Getting wet eyes. Yeah. Today I'm speaking with Ian Wogan. Yeah. Ian is an arborist. He is an entrepreneur. He is a scientist. He is a devoted husband and father of two. Ian is the founder of Treesources, a company that is, and I'm going to read this out because it's absolutely beautifully written, is a green infrastructure company that works in collaboration with nature. In 2019, arborist Ian Wogan recognized an urgent need to build our increasingly modern environments in coexistence with nature. With an experienced team of conservationists, scientists, and arborists, Treesources designs, implements, and stewards ecosystem infrastructure where people, plants, and animals thrive. And that is exactly what they are doing. And given the conversations I had on this podcast, namely the one with Luke Walsh from the Healing Forest, namely the one with Dr. Stephan Harding about the spirituality of nature and Gaia, I since then had something moving, shifting, burning in me when it comes to nature. I feel like there is something so deep and so profound to be learned and experienced when exposed to nature. And I'm speaking about a exposure to nature in a primal way, in a way that is direct, that is unfiltered, raw. And such moments and experiences are still rare in my life, and I aim to make them a constant companion and pillar of my existence moving forward. And the fact that Ian came into my life the way that he did and what he introduced into my life is proof of the utter magic in which the universe works. I met Ian at Sacred Sons Convergence on the last day in the shower house, in the bath wash house, basically, okay? So I was showering and he needed toothpaste. So he was like, "Guy in the shower, can I borrow some of your toothpaste?" And I was like, yeah, sure. And we literally exchanged like 3 sentences, just like, okay, hey, where are you from? And I was just like, I'm German, and nice. And you? Yeah, I'm from Miami. I run this company, and I'm an arborist and I'm working with trees. And it's like, oh, that's interesting, because like I spoke to people on my podcast about the spirituality of nature and like primary forest and forest bathing and healing. And he's like, all right, that sounds interesting. Let's, just connect. And that more or less was it. And boy, have I not seen coming what was waiting for me. So basically, I then, as you know, made it to Florida and Michael Singer and all of that. And then I just hit Ian up and I was just like, hey, I'll be potentially heading down to Miami. And he was open enough to invite me to spend time with him and his family. And that was one of the deepest experiences throughout my trip. It was very, very special to me. And that is because I was embraced with so much love by him and his family. And I don't know, I was just invited with open arms into his life. And what I experienced spending time, just being in his presence, seeing how he is holding space for himself, how he's showing up for himself, how he's showing up for his family. Meaning, his wife, his 2 children, his dog, his community. It's something so deep and so beautiful. It's, for me, the embodiment of what masculinity, healthy masculinity is, because it's grounded. It's participating in everyday life. It's being a man, successfully running a business, successfully running a family, and like, I don't know, grounded spirituality, embodiment, all of these things come to mind when you see a man just doing all of these things, wearing all of these hats. And like, he showed me around. I was actually on site with him, working with Treesources, with his colleagues on site for a day. I was, getting my hands dirty and seeing him, up in the trees and pruning them and working within that environment. And then I went to events with him, and that way I was introduced to business partners of his, and therefore like challenges that his business and also like the whole sort of like movement of people who want to drive change forward and green infrastructure forward. The challenges that individuals and communities such as Treesources and Ian are facing, because it's literally sort of like a clash of 2 worlds. The capitalistic sort of like a modern technologicalized world, and then sort of like the sustainable world. And seeing Ian as like a translator, a mediator between both worlds, a therapist, as we discuss on the podcast. So that was a beautiful experience. And then just seeing the empire and what he has built. He took me to the warehouse, to the wood shop of his, and I just like all the machines and all of it. It was just like unbelievable to see what can come out of a sapling that is a vision of driving change forward, and standing in for a vision that is bigger than oneself. And for Ian, that was just like the collaboration between us as humans and using our cognitive abilities to drive and bring together what has always been here, the elements, and in that case, like trees and nature, and combine them and sort of like bring them together with our modern man-made human infrastructure. And that is just unbelievably inspiring. It was really, really, really special. And so this conversation was the only conversation I went in with complete trust in what needs to unfold, will be unfolding, and that just happened. And it was a deeply moving experience for me to meet Ian in the first place and then to have this conversation. It's a very, very beautiful encounter of two men, I would say. I've learned so much about life, about the nature from Ian, and so much more that I cannot even put into words. And so I just invite you to take it all in and to see this man, because, yeah, he's a very special person. Yeah. All right. With that being said, wish you beautiful insights and much fun with this episode and Ian Wogan. And I would just love to open up the space, open up the curtains, and let you fill it with whatever you feel like is needed, and what needs to be said about the context that we need, and that I sort of already in some parts know, but the listeners definitely will need to understand how you became the version of the man you are today, what it is that you are navigating currently,
Mm,
and what obstacles you might also had to overcome to get there. Yeah.
mm. So, bit of a creation story.
Mm.
um, I feel like the culmination of my life's events, and where I am today was precipitated from an early age, uh, in in the in the exposure to the elements, in the exposure to the outdoor world, in the exposure to adventure and exploration, um, that that my mother really really brought into being for me and for my three sisters in a very strong way. Um, I grew up in Miami, Florida. I grew up on a dead end road, meaning there's no exit, um, where each of the houses had a considerable bit of land. And as a child, I remember running in the streets and climbing trees and playing until the sun went down and getting called back to the house with a dinner bell. And um, I think those very early memories of being outdoors and viscerally feeling the wind, feeling the rain, feeling the earth, um, feeling the pain from a trip and fall, um, engaging with those that were closest to me, and my sisters and my friends, in those elements, was very formative for those things that I continued to seek out in my life and continued to invite in throughout my adolescence and into my teenage years and into my college years and beyond. And so those early years were also informed um, by team activities, sports, and Boy Scouts, and and a sense of community, and inherently trusting other people to help fulfill a larger common goal. And those also I carried through with me, um, this sense of trust in others, in this knowingness that as a collective working together, we can achieve much greater things than any individual. Um, and those two dynamics in terms of connection to element and team dynamics, um, I would say are pillars of who I am. Um, in terms of where I was physically, I went to school in California after high school. I went out to San Diego and Santa Barbara and was exposed uh, just California in general. What a different sort of vibe than tropical Miami, which is very Latin influenced and beautiful. But a completely different landscape. I basically went out to California to be close to consistent surfing, um, and also go to school. Um, but in California, I was exposed to uh, a lot of the agricultural community that was connected to the earth and growing food that was healthy and delicious and abundant and in connection with the place, and that was really inspiring to me, to see main streets of a large city shut down so that all the local farmers could come in and have this, like a farmers market bazaar type experience, and it was just very inspirational to me. I hadn't really seen that in Miami, or felt that type of connection to community and stewardship of land and these tenets of sustainable agriculture. And I got more into that. I studied permaculture. I did this beautiful permaculture design course in Quail Springs outside of Ojai, um, and learned about how we can use our intellect to inform the design of naturally occurring energetic flows from waste streams to water movement to growth of different crops. Um, it was a very enlightening course and exposure to ideas that we as humans have the capacity to really be regenerative in our stewardship of land management practices. And that struck a deep chord, and I was really inspired by that. Um, I anticipated finishing university in Santa Barbara. I felt like I had landed in a place that was 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 nourishing to me. I was living in a cooperative and in this community of Isla Vista that was very much a duality. It was like this hard partying, college town on one hand, and then it was also, to me, a deep drop into much more connected spaces. So that duality kind of played out for me, but I feel like I was in a place that was being nourished by that deeper sense of connection and able to just be observant of those things that I might have been attracted to previously, but had kind of worked through my system. Um, so it was really nice. It was a great sort of testing ground and opportunity for me to experiment in things that were inspiring and enlightening and challenging. And then I got a letter from the University of California at Santa Barbara saying that I didn't provide enough proof that I was a California resident to substantiate my in-state tuition. And this might be a novel concept to you over in Europe, but um, I was paying for school, and tuition went as an in-state California resident went from $10,000 a year to $45,000 a year as an out-of-state resident. And it was probably one of the most difficult decisions that I had been faced with in my life. I was 22 at the time, and I it was like a rug had been pulled out from under me. Um, I fell into a state of depression. I didn't I didn't know where I would draw the inspiration that I had been feeling up to that point from again. It was I felt like I was regressing in some regards by having to go back home um and so it was very challenging. Um I felt like I was at this growth spurt, and then everything just got swept out um and so I moved back to Miami. Um and in doing so, it also brang through the process brang through for me this innate sense of knowing that things happen for a reason and trusting that process. And it was that decision and moving back to Miami was very much a it was a test for me, or not a test, but it was the real world showing me um, patience and understanding and trust. Um, just having and holding those elemental characteristics as a human, um, through this process opened up all of these doors in Miami that I couldn't have even begun to imagine were available or possible, or um, so it was a beautiful process, super challenging, moving back with the parents and um, and being in this space where I felt like nobody understood what it was to have like a consciousness about them, about their impact on the planet, about where their food is coming from, about what their consumerism looks like and how that is impacting the world for future generations. I felt like it was, I felt like I was regressing, but also I saw it and understood it that Miami needs this type of energetic wayfinding and and energetic input in order to help alchemize and shift the beautiful thing that Miami is and the beautiful culture that is here and the beautiful environment that is here, but just that we have some misalignments in how we engage and what we're doing as humans, how we're impacting this place. And so by coming back to Miami in this kind of void of conscious collective, moving forward or way forward, it was really it took a while, but it was clear that the opportunity to do great things here was entirely available for me to make of it what I could envision. And so in school at finishing at Florida International University, um, I helped to start up a farmers market and I was helping to manage the garden club and I got into yoga really for the first time and I started meditation, ended up going to India, um, and and really just diving deep on those practices that I wanted to be more aligned with and more polished or more experienced with. Um, and so I ended up managing an organic farm down in the Redlands. We grew all sorts of beautiful like microgreens and avocados and seasonal vegetables. We had bees and we had a mushroom operation, and it's there that I really forged a strong relationship with my friend Drake, who became my business partner in the next venture post school. I remember we always we always we always talked about how things started and we were just kind of looking at each other. Well, school's coming to an end, so what do we do now? And we decided to collectively start a business. So the original business was Garden of Ian, um, and we focused on installing edible landscapes and vegetable gardens. We put in bees, we put in native plants. It was this permaculture based landscape design company. Um, and it was cool to figure out the nuances of doing business. We both worked restaurants at night, so we didn't have to take any money from the business, and we just kind of we moved through what it meant to start a business in Miami and in the world in general. Um, and there was a lot of great learning lessons from, how do we sustain ourselves to how do we do all the work and do all the administration and keep it all rolling. And his father was very influential in helping us to navigate those turbulent new challenges and times. Um, and we ended up building a really strong production arboriculture business. A we From Garden of Ian, we had a lot of clients asking us about trees, and Drake got certified as an arborist, and I followed suit. And I was in this space that I didn't know if I wanted to continue that, so I was looking at job opportunities around the Caribbean and around other places. And then I said, okay, let's do this. Let's do this full on. So we started True Tree Service, and really focused on the highest quality tree care that we could possibly bring to South Florida. And the lessons from running that business and from being in partnership and from navigating hurricane responses and seeing the waste generated by trees and seeing how trees are impacted on an everyday basis by development activities of urban centers. really informed what I knew to be the sphere of influence that I wanted to really plug my energy into. And it really became Treesources when I decided that the partnership wasn't a relationship that was working for me, and the vision of what true tree service was collectively in that partnership was too, it was too small. It wasn't the impact that I wanted to dedicate my life's work to, for really demonstrating better ways of doing things for future generations, and better way of doing things in managing tree resources, namely. So Treesources came from that experience, and it was a great rebirth for me in many ways. It was, I really feel like the the butterfly coming out of the chrysalis from the, from the caterpillar stage. It was incredibly challenging to to uncouple from that 10-year business partnership, from somebody who I considered to be, a deep brother that I trusted with everything. Um, I just inherently knew that I had a different vision for what I wanted to participate and how I wanted to show up in this world. And it took me that long to commit to it. Um, and evolve the understanding that that's where I wanted to be, really, ultimately. Um, and so Treesources, I founded in 2019, and really officially launched and brought team members on in August of 2022. And we are a green infrastructure company that focuses on integrating environmental function and the built environment, and really we're almost like a therapist in many ways, navigating the conflicts of gray infrastructure, which are roadways and buildings and pipes and utility lines, and Mother Nature, which is soft and moving and flowing, and it's this incredible, like, therapeutic work that we do to bring the two together, so that collectively it is a far more rich and long lasting condition that we're creating for people, and for migratory birds, and for butterflies and pollinators. And it's stewardship in its truest sense, and it's being able to use the intelligence that we have as these creative beings to think beyond how we've done things in the past, and think beyond our immediate needs to those of 7 generations down the line, and to the smallest of creatures that don't have a voice to speak for themselves, but inherently we have the capacity to create conditions that allow that ecosystem and this planet to thrive. And so that is where I am now, and that's the work that I'm dedicating my life energy to.
There's two things I want to explore with that, and I hope I don't forget the second one by the time we finish exploring the first. But the
Mm,
first thing is I identify two, three major turning points. I spot um, big decisions at the time, and you grow. We grow with our responsibilities, with our capabilities, and what looking back seemed like an unsurmountable mountain. Um, Looking back became something we can actually surmount and overcome. Um, and so, having said that, like I spot a big decision with 22, moving from Santa Barbara back to Miami. I spot a big decision part ways with that business partner, and I'm sure many other crossroads where yeah you could have gone either way. You could have gone another way. No right and wrong. Um, so out of very personal curiosity, how would you describe today um, your process of decision making?
How would I describe today my process of decision making? Um, for me, the best decisions have been emergent in nature, um, as at their essence, emergent from the imprints and the lessons of the past to the gut connection that I have to who I am, and to the vision for those things that I align with and track towards. And so it's this weaving of life lessons, of presence and connection to that which I strive towards. Um, that brings me to my most potent decision making places. Um, yeah, that would be
Mm.
my best descriptor of how I make decisions. And um, I think I'm unique in how I do things. I just imagine some of my team having to follow in the ways that I show up as a leader, and I trust that it's exciting and challenging and rewarding, all at once. I don't I don't follow a like an orderly schedule of things. I very much flow with with kind of the major movements that are happening in my life at the time, whether it's the needs of my family or large projects that we have ongoing, um, or just um, sort of instinctive paths that I meander down and begin to explore around other opportunities. And so my decision making is very organic, but it's very much informed from my past, from those lessons that I carry with me, to that the ability to find center and to align with what my gut is telling me, and again to maintaining true to those things that I align with, and those values that I hold inherently dear to my life.
It's like a it's like a it's like a dance between what seems like from the outside a very systematic approach, but it is how you describe it, and as I know you, a very organic, intuitive dance
Mm.
in between these three things. Like I don't see you in an Excel sheet naming, like putting down pro and cons or listing previous experiences. and take in an inventory that way. But like it totally like it, but it is sort of a very like a very like graspable sort of approach,
Mm,
which I really like. And
mm,
I'm now I'm present with you, but I'll sort of will extract and see what I can do with that in my life, as big decisions um, are coming up and
mm,
need to be made. So
mm,
uh, that's quite present right now when I'm hearing you speak.
mm.
And yeah, so I didn't forget about the second thing that stood out to me when you were sharing about your journey, and now um, that is the theme of challenges, the theme of maybe also resistance, and maybe the theme of yeah, those are good words. I think those
Mm,
are words that I would use to describe what I actually wanted to say. So, you mentioned a therapeutic sort of job that you with Treesources are doing, are fulfilling, or it's at least part of what you're doing of your occupation. And I totally understand it.
mm,
Now, when faced with these, when faced with with another world, with another energy that's pulling maybe towards a different direction and where you would like them to go. And this is very like it doesn't have to be attached to Treesources or like a specific decision making within there. It's more like a like a live theme when you are confronted with these kind of opposite opposites or like different synergies also with your business, the same
mm,
thing. um how do you navigate that? How do you deal with
mm.
that?
Um, I feel I feel the analogy of moving water across landscape is probably the most appropriate to how I understand those dynamics, in which water will always move downhill. So I have this inherent sense that I will always be on the path that I need to be on. Nothing will come up or change that inherent truth. But what happens is, there are courses that I see myself on, or directions that I'm heading, and unexpectedly there's a landslide and a blockage of that direction. And so what does water do? What if there's a blockage? Water will continue to build up. If you think about like a river, water will build up until the point that it overflows or finds a way around or goes through. And so when I'm faced with externalities that I feel are blockages, um, or not inherently true to who I am, it's exercising presence and bringing an awareness to if if I'm if I'm fully present for it, or if I'm caught up in a story about who I think I should be, or who I want to be seen as by others, or um or childhood um childhood traumas that inform a protective barrier that I'll put up. So in the immediate presence of that type of blockage, drawing back into presence and drawing into the connection to the essence of who I am, the essence of my spirit, the essence of what I'm here to do on this planet, and and being and being present and acknowledging all the other things that come up for me, whether it's frustration or again like protectionism or um, imposter syndrome or whatever the emotion is being elicited, coming back to presence, coming back to presence, coming back to presence. And I feel like it's so easy to say that when you ask me this question, and really to apply it in the real world, that's the real test of the metal. That's the real exercise. That's the real working of the muscles and you know and the repetition that creates the longevity in that type of practice um, to really help me navigate those types of things, you know? So when I feel myself being drawn or pulled or blocked, um, it's finding presence and I feel like I have a pretty a pretty good library of experiences to draw from that I can use to inform management decisions that get me on the right track or you know or other decisions. They don't have to be management decisions, but um, yeah, just decisions and actions that help me get on the right track. Um, and then it's also doing the deep work of recognizing patterning and taking like radical responsibility for those decisions that I make in my life and those commitments that I have and the responsibilities that I hold near and dear. Yeah, yeah.
Mm, mm-hmm. Yes, sir. Um, yeah, what I hear you saying there is has for me also a lot to do with what, yeah, with integrity,
Mm,
integrity to how you want to show up in the world
mm,
from a deep core and remove any like like lower frequency based story and narrative out of the
mm,
equation when especially interacting with another party. I'm thinking, I don't know, I just see, that's because I spend time with you, I just see you as a representative of a movement of a collective that, you know, is heading into one direction.
mm,
Strong purpose, strong vision,
mm,
um strong intention of doing something that comes from a very intrinsic place. Otherwise, you
mm,
would probably not work in this industry. Like you need and take all of this, all of the weight on your shoulders if there wasn't like a really deep sort of inherent and innate like motivation to do that, and
mm,
that clashing with the reality of a capitalistic westernized highly technologicalized fucking like animal, you know, of whatever sort. So I just have this image of like those two coming together,
mm,
and it's nearly like the job of like a politician, right? So
mm,
like a, in the purest sense, I'm not
mhm.
referring to ones that I think of right now, but in the purest sense of like what I understand, like a diplomat or somebody who is like taking all of these things into account and really
Mm,
authentically and genuinely sort of understands the other side of the coin and the
mm,
other side of you know, of this equation, and then tries to also remove, yeah, like you say, you know, all of the stories that we might project on the on that thing, on that person, on that individual or whatever, really in the grand scheme of things completely irrelevant criteria, and remove that, and come from a place of presence. That's what 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 arrives with me, and
Mm.
what really rings true for me. And like you also say, yeah, easier said than done, man. Yeah,
A
easier
hundred
said
percent.
than done.
A hundred percent.
I feel that. So I wanted to bring this up. I wanted to bring this up. As I was coming back to Germany, uh, dear friend of mine, love him deeply, connected, and he had me share whatever is alive from the journey, what I want to basically highlight and stuff, and not only because it was the most recent one, but like you and the time that we had together, sort of like right came up as the first thing, and I was just like telling the story of what it is you're doing with Treesources as well, um, and that alone, just that alone being this gigantic thing, what I also sort of like experienced with you taking me to the wood shop, taking me to the storage, taking me on the field, taking me to relationships that you established through the company. So it's like this, it's a whole world, right, that includes and demands several occupations in and of itself. So it's like a business owner, but then there's also the leader, and then there's the diplomat, and then there's the educator, and there's different roles just within that. And
Mm.
then there is the whole other thing of just being being a father. Then just that by in and of itself gigantic, with two kids, being a husband, and then on top being an outdoors guy with so many different interests and capabilities, ranging from fishing to you know uh somewhat of like hunting and outdoors and sports and all of these different things, and bringing them together. And basically what he said is just like, dude, man, like, does he have like 72 hours? Like, is his day just longer than mine? And actually it's coming from somebody, he's having a child already, and me, I don't have any of these things. I barely have a company that's somewhat operating. So um I was just like, yeah, I know, right? Like, it's just like, how does he do it, and so I guess that's my question. How do you do it, man? Like, how do you
Mm.
wear those different hats? How do you
Mm.
uh can you speak on that a little bit?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Rome wasn't built in a day, you know? It's a famous expression. I feel like there's probably maybe Atlantis wasn't built in a day would be cooler, but regardless, um, for me, it's just finding what's true to me, you know, um, participating in those things that I believe in, putting my energy into those things that support and nourish me, building the relationships and maintaining the relationships and stewarding the relationships that 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 I want to call in as my community, as my tribe. Um, all the things end up um, orbiting that essence. And so, if I'm just taking ownership of how I do those things, it's by just being true to myself, you know? It's just who I am. It's just
Hmm.
what feeds my life force energy is is participating, is being active, is getting my hands dirty, is creating, is nourishing and caring for is exploring and adventuring and just who I am.
Hmm. With the business aspect of things and this like entrepreneurial drive, maybe, is that something? Yeah, is that something you would say basically that was always in you?
Mm. Um, so kind of going back to my creation story and having a mother that ensured that we were outside, she also ensured that um that we develop a strong work ethic. Um, we always had a laundry list on Saturday mornings of things that needed to be done around the house, things that needed to be done in the yard, or the windows cleaned, or whatever. And so from an early onset, um, I I knew what it was to put off those things that I wanted to do immediately. I want to go play with my friends. I want to go to the park. I want to go whatever it is, the script became if you work for it, you can get it. If you put energy into caring for and maintaining and cultivating, the seeds that are sown will bear the fruit that feeds you. And so, you know, not only not only was that at home, but at the age of 13, I applied for my first job, and I wasn't I wasn't legally allowed to, but it was an Irish bar, and I could work as a food runner or a busboy or a bar back and help support, and it was kind of a cute thing for the for the bar or for the place. And I worked there, almost every weekend, at nights, Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights, Sunday brunch, um, for for much of my high school kind of career. And it's just I I was able to have spending money, and I was able to cultivate that for myself, to have for those things that I wanted in my life. So at 15, I bought my first car, which was a 1967 Ford Mustang, like cherry red Ford Mustang,
Jeez,
and
that's an oh wow.
and it was because I had put the work in. I had done the work, and I had saved up. Literally, like, I would get tips on a night. I think I was making, I don't know, $40 a night or $50 a night or something. But I would just I had my savings, and you know I made I had $5,000 to spend on something that I really wanted. So I went with my dad and got the car, brought it back, and had that was my car for high school. Um, and so I very much thank my mother for for what at the time felt like torture. It's like, Mom, everyone's over there doing the party or whatever, and I've gotta cut the grass, or I've gotta, trim the trees or whatever. So unfair, that type of like attitude that you don't appreciate until way down the line, and having that inherent knowingness that I that I have the work ethic to put into, to have the patience to you know to buy a house, to support a family, to do the things that are really fulfilling and gratifying, and come from the pure essence of hard work and yeah, my own hands.
Yeah, it shines through. Like, you were telling this story and you were like, you know, you're in college, you're in whatever stage, and then you would be working at night, you would be working on the weekends. So yeah, I picked up on that, and it's like
Mm,
it simmers and shines through. And the it's like a thing that really, it's a slow burner, but like it's sort of like now it I wish, just universe, please just like make it happen sooner rather than later, just like that the penny drops internally for me, that I just stop sort of like adopting and sort of like do very direct transfers from people that I find inspiring and stories that I find inspiring, to sort of like this immediate transfer on into my life. So it's
mm,
basically like okay, so this person did that and then that worked, and this is sort of inspiring and it's moving a lot in me.
mm,
So I'm just
mm-hmm,
gonna do the same thing, why can I not do the same thing?
mm,
Maybe, I just haven't, why can I not just start a business? And so like I'm so far away from me in that moment, I realized, like, but it's now dawning on me, like with 29, I'm it's literally like in the last couple of days, it's been because of like, so what is with Maxi? What is with the person who is listening to this, right? Like this urge of like making this direct transfer and just like, okay, like I'm just gonna do the same thing. I mean, that's like, I just like, whoa, wait a second. Like,
mm,
is that the message that I'll get from it? Yeah, like, is that, or is it more like a just recognizing still that like I'm having a different background. So when I hear you speak about your parents, I'll be going there, yeah, okay, my parents are very different in that. And that obviously informed my childhood in a very, very different way. And that
mm-hmm,
makes me right now show up very differently. And so there's
mm,
like this huge thing now going on where I'm just like, yeah, okay, like, um, yeah, maybe I'm not supposed to do certain things in the same fashion of like the people are doing, that I find incredibly inspiring. Um,
well,
and yeah,
sorry.
no, you go ahead. That was actually all the point that I wanted to make.
I think you verbally opened up this conversation, um, aligned with that message for yourself, that that the creation of this space was not for you, right?
Yeah.
Um, but inherently you get so much out of this, um, and I think it's very easy for us to see outside and say, oh, look at that person, look at what they have, look at what they're doing, look at how happy they are. It's so easy to to slip into that mental state of thinking we don't have enough or thinking we don't have exactly what we need. But it's not the case. Any experience that the universe is mirroring for us is strictly an opportunity to polish the lens and polish the lens and polish the lens and allow that beautiful maxi light to like really shine
Mm.
bright, you know? Because you've got everything you need.
Mm. Yeah, I know. I sort of know. Sometimes I do. Sometimes I do more than other times, but yeah,
Yeah.
I know that it's inherently true. I know that. Just my access to that truth varies. Let's just put it that way.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah. Yep.
um, so, mm, yeah, so putting that in something that I um that I want to ask is, um yeah, it's multifolded, it goes many ways, but like with the decision, we talked about like this, the decision making, being faced with challenges, and that was somewhat related to your career. Um, was there a point for you as a man, as maybe also going from boy to manhood, where you felt like ready for fatherhood?
Hmm. Ooh. Um, I think I align fatherhood with that, the analogy with water. Just it's like my natural flow, the natural direction. Um, and there were several life experiences with former partners that brought up what it might look like to bring another life into this world. And um, and I think it was really when Virginia, my wife, and I, um, we did a 100-mile canoe paddle trip, over 10 days, that the connection to somebody that I wanted to commit a life with and to aligned, and the knowingness that she would be the mother of my children, um, was forged. Um, there it was this incredibly beautiful experience for the two of us to navigate the trails and navigate our relationship, and be just in awe of nature and in each other's presence through kind of some challenging moments and some absolutely beautiful moments. Um, and it was this very like dense experience of love and acceptance and alignment that I just knew that she was going to be the mother of my children. Um,
Hmm.
that that was the most uh, kind of the most critical piece of the puzzle for me. It's very easy to be a father, not in the sense of, it's very easy to become a father in the sense of like biology. It's very easy to plant the seed and do the thing. What's not easy is the true commitment to fatherhood. And for me, the piece was in partnership, that I knew I or there was a trustingness that that I would commit to this person for the rest of my life, and that would hold massive implications for the children we would bring into this world.
Hmm. How would you say this relationship informed other parts of your life?
With Virginia,
Yeah.
oh, um, Virginia she is such she's a force of nature, and she holds true to those things that she believes in, and and those things that she sees, um, that aren't right, that that need to be called out, um, that need to be communicated. And um, for me, I have I'm it's an edge for me to communicate those things that I'm deeply uncomfortable with in somebody else's actions or that is happening in the world, and really call it out and like hold space for that uncomfortability of communicating my discomfort, um, and she has been just um, one of my greatest teachers in that, in being able to drop the shields, drop the armor, open up, communicate, be clear with myself to her, be seen by her, be seen by others. Yeah.
Mm, thank you, man. So beautiful. Um, I embarking on this trip and meeting a lot of men and Sacred Sons, bringing this sort of like huge spectrum of masculinity into my orbit. Um, I also saw like somewhat of a maybe that's just my projection of it. Of sure, I mean, of course it is. Like that's only the lens that I can apply and use to see the world. So of course it's like tainted by me when I'm speaking. So, um, but I noticed sort of like an inclination of like what kind of people also are drawn in by the work that Sacred Sons is doing. For example, I saw some
Mm,
similarities. I saw maybe some patterns, and so like this sort of direct transfer of like, we're going into a space of deep healing, we're going to confrontation, celebration, integration, so all of these things as like as meta themes. This is our intention of going in, and that says a lot about the people who are entering these spaces. It's like, how do they live their lives, and also what do they contribute in their lives. And
mm,
I just saw like, just like, oh, okay, like they're a lot of times they're doing healing work as well, like they are
mm,
sharing their own medicine with the world.
mm,
And oftentimes, um, in a sort of direct way, like meaning they bring healing by offering and working within the spaces of healing. It's
mm,
literally what they'll be doing, or
mm-hmm,
something that's sort of like associated with it. and and that being said, and then meeting you, and having this whole narrative and this whole like these ideas about what is the healthy masculine, what is the healthy masculinity, what is
mm,
that, how does that
mm,
play out in life. And then there's another brother coming to mind, that I so like I love this guy. And then meeting you, um, and from profession, it's like I'm an arborist. I have a company called Treesources. You showed me the video at Sacred Sons. We were quickly just speaking about that, and I was just like, wow, okay, that's very different. I met yoga teachers and Reiki healers and whatever, just like, and then there's you, and I'm a business owner, I'm a father and a husband.
mm,
So that was, and that sat with me. That sort of like simmered, man. It simmered. And because I am going through that, and I'm investigating that part of my life with like a magnifying glass, I'm just looking very closely and sort of like look. And I just find that for me personally, um the biggest sort of inspiration of like grounded masculinity. So I'm sort of like, there's a German saying at which we break a stick for something. So basically, when we break a stick for something, we advertise it, and we want more people to find out about it and know about it. And I just, the message that I'm trying to, with this story and these learnings, to get across and to speak into existence, is that sort of like your unique approach of like just like what it is from pure point of presence, what it is that you want to bring into the world,
Mm,
how you do with your profession, how you run your business, how you show up in your life. Like that is, to me, that, like, that is a definition of the healthy masculine. That is for me the definition of the healthy masculine. um and it's coming in so many shades of gray, and I find myself like looking at the black and white, looking at, it's the toxic masculine and then there's the healthy masculine, and the one looks like that and it does that, and the other one doesn't looks like that. And also by profession, also what those people dedicate their lives to. And
mm,
now I'm just seeing the 50 shades of gray and all the colors that are in between, and I see you, and you're very sort of like this, such a unique mixture of like the color palette. And when spending in time with you, it's just like, it is, yeah, fucking obvious. It's fucking obvious what, to me, what healthy masculinity is. And I just wanted
mm.
to really break this stick out loud, and just like also let you in on this, like, because it's been, in its very unique way, impacting me, and
Mm,
therefore how I show up and speak to other people about it, and brothers who then are in touch with me about it, how I speak about what I feel like the man that I want to be. So
mm,
that is just like, I needed to say that. I wanted to say that and express that, and thank you for that as well, because the way that you live your life and show up, that's like, it's very, very, very powerful, man. So
mm.
yeah, I wanted to say that. Yeah.
Thank you. I feel like uh, half of this podcast is just going to be tears streaming from my eyes of joy and gratitude.
Mm.
I appreciate
Well,
it.
it's
I
beautiful.
appreciate it.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Take it all in. That's what you are,
Mm,
uh, to to me. Um,
mm,
yeah. So that being said, going from flying above the clouds and looking down on it, and seeing the bigger picture and the bigger dynamics. I'm just, I want to go a little bit, plant the feet on the ground a little bit more, and um, basically have a little bit of a conversation about what we need right now, when it comes to the work that you are doing, when it comes to a coexistence, but not even a coexistence. It's like a relationship, isn't it, between man-made environments,
mm,
man-made, I don't even, infrastructure
mm-hmm,
and landscapes,
mm,
and the mother and the source and
mm,
nature, and where it is that we're coming from and returning to. um, what do you feel like needs to be said in that regard, and how does that maybe also translate to your mission and to
mm,
Treesources?
mm. Um, Thank you for asking that. Um, in in the work that's done with Sacred Sons, there's a lot of conversation around stories, and frameworks of things. And so when it comes to our story collectively and our framework around how we walk through this world as a civilization, um, so much of the reverberated narrative is around control and power and domination and um, and scarcity. Um, so I feel like the most important work is in identifying what the reframe looks like, identifying what the new narrative is, um, when it comes to the impacts that that we are actively participating, that we've designed and are actively participating in on this planet. Um, so macro, I think it's the reframe of the narrative, and then boots on the ground is entering our daily routines and our daily practices with that reframe in mind to to bring forward those better ways of doing things, those more circular economic models that are socially, uh, environmentally, economically just. Um, and it's I feel like it's the salmon swimming to the headwaters, you know? It's like there's so much in the way, and there's, such a counter current that needs to be um, forged and broken through um, and navigated against. Um, so yeah, I think um, it's just living. It's living from a reframed knowingness that there are better ways of doing things that are more aligned with what will sustain all of life on this planet for the 7 generations to come and beyond. That's the reframe, and then whatever the work is, whether it's the work that I do or the work that you do, or you know, cleaning up garbage or working with AI or whatever the professional engagement is, um, it's it's approaching it through that reframe that I think is one of the most critical pieces to doing the impact work, to doing the work that's generational.
Right. And to make it even more practical, what is it? What are you specifically now with Tree Sources working on to make that happen?
Yeah. So Treesources I see as like a spearhead. We've created an entity that that truly represents the type of work that um, that are the best management practices in integrating trees and plants into the built environment, that are the best management practices of caring for or stewarding these trees. What in South Florida, it's critical that we trim trees in urban conditions for hurricane events, because we have the opportunity to create healthy architecture within trees by selective pruning practices that make them more resilient in high wind events. And if you look at a natural forest, it it can just be left alone because all of the functions will are cyclical, and a hurricane force is going to influence the biological regeneration of the next generation of those trees. Whereas in an urban condition, those natural forest conditions aren't the same. So you have trees that are exposed to high winds because there's not a continuous canopy coverage that lifts winds over. And so it's again taking our ability as cognitive human beings and applying them to best management and stewardship practices and principles. So again, Treesources is the spearhead of this type of work, which forges a path for a much larger collective organization that has global reaching impacts. Um, I came up with the name co-arbory, which comes from the Aboriginal term corroboree, which is like a festival or celebration. Um, Australian Aboriginal term, could be for war, could be for ceremony, but it's this active celebratory experience. Corroboree and arbor. Arbor is Latin for tree. So co-arbory, it's this collective that has pillars of impact. So one pillar is the guild, which is an educational based platform that defines best management practices and best stewardship practices and provides seminars and workshops and training opportunities. Um, so that's one pillar. The other pillar is the hub, which is basically like a wood hub for resource recovery, taking wood waste that would otherwise come out of the urban environment for trees that are removed and turning it into value-added products rather than this cradle to grave, recreating a circular economic model and capturing those resources and plugging them in to the local artisans and craftsmen and carpenters and using them on local projects, um, which is far more impactful to a local economic generation, and a minimization on our overburdened landfill situations here in the United States. So that's the hub. It's all about resource recovery. Um, and we have a tree bank concept, which is basically it's a banking model, but with trees. And so there are investments and there are dividends, and it's forging a way for developers to see the true value in trees. And so in this reframe of utilizing this a banking model, we can we can speak the language of those that are a little bit off track.
Mm.
Um, and then we have the resilient unit. So the resilient unit is all about future proof. Not, I don't like the term. Well, future proofing is a little bit of a charged. It's like the planet will be here in the future regardless of what we do. It's just up to us to determine what that looks like. And so it's more of like um, it's more like creating the type of world that we wish to see from urban conditions to forestry conditions. So it's a lot about tree planting exercises and and then also responding to disaster and to these disruption events that are happening globally, from hurricanes to earthquakes to wars, and through a lens of trees as the tenants, how can we resolve some of the situations, or how can we mediate and mitigate and create a more resilient future with trees. So we've got
Mm.
those four pillars: the resilience unit, the tree bank, the guild, and the hub, all under the collective of co-arbory, which is which is the global work of Treesources essentially.
So for me as an individual, people listening, um, is there something you can share with us, that you can pass on, that we can do, that we can contribute, that we can educate ourselves in? something you can point me and the listeners towards, um, if there's like resonance with what you're sharing, and I can just
Mm,
speak for myself, there is. So
mm,
what can I do? That's the question I'm asking.
mm. I mean, from a very basic level, we're at on Instagram. We're at Treesources Miami. My email is ian@treesources.com, and um, I feel like with humanity, there's the nuance of the individual lights working collectively are really the magic, are really like the power. And so I welcome communications from those who feel inspired. Email is best for me, and then our website launches in the next 2 weeks, so we'll have a lot of resources there, and the wood hub, the wood shop, will basically will have a number of small gifts and merch that will go to support the continuous evolution of this vision. And so, I think that will be announced here pretty soon. And any who feel compelled to participate and support, that would be it's a great sort of token of exchange in which we're creating, coasters made out of hurricane or trees that have fallen down in hurricanes, or any number of wood related products. Um, and in that exchange, we can continue to build and and impact. Yeah.
Hmm. Beautiful.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a workshop, and it's a thing, people. It's a thing. It's happening, and it's yeah. I fully trust in like in the beautiful artisanal outcome of what you guys are doing there.
Mm,
It's beautiful, and yeah, like it's literally like I literally looked into like arborists and in German it's more like landscaping,
mm,
landscapers,
mm,
who then employ arborists and work with them as part of what they're doing.
mm,
And I looked at it and I was like, okay, like because I feel like this innate sort of need and desire to get to it's a move away from and a move towards to and move away from the thing that I'm looking at right now, not meaning you but the device that this is connected to. um I can literally feel my my life force, my chi, my shakti, my my prana being somewhat, I don't even know the it's just being drained
mm,
by these devices.
mm,
Whereas I can just feel, and yesterday was one of the days, and I can feel just the direct implications of also being in the presence of somebody like you,
mm,
walking through a park, and you just no matter where we go, you would just be able to name what we see, what the tree is,
mm,
what is the infrastructure of this landscape right now here, what do we need to be aware of when moving through these landscapes. And I just find myself already looking at these things in a different way. I'm just
mm,
like, okay, like wow, these what kind of forest is this? What kind of trees are in here? What's happening? Why do they look the way that they look? And then it makes me to go. It makes me research things. I'm just like, okay, so Germany, south of Germany, what kind of? And I just found like that we have like a specific sort of insect. I wouldn't know the name now, but basically we have a huge epidemic of those invading
mm-hmm,
trees and basically killing them from the inside out. It's a huge, and that's because of too dry uh, um, soil. It's just too dry, and therefore the certain all the different, like the water the water absorption doesn't go to a deep enough layer of soil,
Mm.
that it prevents those predators to yeah, exponentially reproduce, and they do,
Mm.
and then they invade those trees and kill them. And
Mm-hmm.
so there's a whole thing. Basically, I just it's like very concrete now, but that what's I just wanted to say that is what happened as a result of just a small, like an incentive, like a sensitivity towards those things, and then it will play out and manifest in different ways of
Mm.
each one of us, right? How
Mm-hmm.
what we do with that. But yeah, so I don't know, maybe in a couple of months you find me working for like a landscaping company or something. But it's definitely sort of like it's definitely like in my orbit right now, because I don't know, yeah, it would just allow me to, if I can call this work, I don't know. It would just be something that I put my attention to,
Mm.
and my abilities, because yeah, that's all we have. We can just put focused attention on one thing at a time, and it's quite important to decide what that one thing is at a
Mm.
time.
Mm-hmm.
Can be multiple things in the grand scheme of things, but at a time it's only always one thing. And
Mm.
I sure know it's not going to be 8 to 10 hours staring in a digital device. That's all I know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
uh
I
yeah.
hear you. I hear you loud and clear, and it's such a dance that's going on in your world, and I think in everybody's world, everybody's trying to land in a place that they're doing things that are inspiring, and where they're growing from. Yeah, and any resources or support that I can provide. One of my best friends down here is an arborist from Germany. He's a board certified master arborist, which is one of the highest levels of certifications that you can get.
Mm.
And I've spent a good amount of time with him in hurricane response in the Bahamas, um, and just on a number of things, arborist related and not arborist related. Um, but it is for sure um, it's a visceral profession. It's a very hands-on and experiential profession. Lot to learn from it. Um, it can be challenging in our modern times, where the current constructs of things don't quite value that type of work, and so there's many instances in which I find myself educating, so that the the sheer importance of what we do lands with those people that are making decisions. Um, it's a tremendous amount of uh, of the conversations that I have and the engagements that I have with different clients, or municipalities, or institutions, and yeah, I think it's all part of the process. It's all part of of participating in that which I am most aligned to participate in. And if I go down a path that I wanted to explore, and I hit a dead end and have to turn around, that's part of life. That's part of our human experience in doing those things that inspire us, or that we're curious about. And I would highly encourage you to pursue those things, and also recognize when pattern might make other decision making more valuable for you. If you find yourself being pulled in all the directions, and just making decisions in the moment on bing, 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 and not ensuring that those decisions are coming from a place of like of deep like maxi chi.
Mm-hmm.
Just
Mm-hmm.
offer that.
Mm-hmm. No, lands and it rings very true to my heart.
Mm,
And that is that's the pattern. That's the pattern right there. It's reactivity to external stimuli
mm,
that is driving decision making for me
mm,
with major life things, and that's okay. For my 20s, that was beautiful, impulsive, beautiful decisions that led me down so many interesting paths. 50 Shades of Grey, everything in between, man. It was everything in there, and I feel like it's just I just invite a different energy
mm,
and into my decision making for sure.
mm,
And that comes with very concrete, very very tangible changes that need to happen also to facilitate that, to make that even possible. Like
mm-hmm,
I need to do things differently for a different
mm-hmm,
outcome. And
mm-hmm,
so that for me means to become now, for example, still in the midst of chaos to some degree, to in become still in the eye of the hurricane, of needing to take like a decision right now, this kind of thing, where I'm just like, okay, how can I facilitate a space where I, yeah, have a roof under my head and food on the table,
mm,
but still, take the time that I need
mm-hmm.
right now. Holy cow! Like, this is important now. I'm at the crossroad, and I know so many people are. When I'm looking at the demographic of this podcast, that's a pivotal time, between the
Mm-hmm,
20s and the 30s or mid 30s. That's with where the rubber hits the road, really.
mm-hmm,
So we can make powerful decisions, no matter what the age. But I'm just saying, it's that's what's alive with me.
mm,
um all right, so with all that being said, it's like a few sort of like questions I bring in at the end of the podcast. You do with them what resonates, however long, short, resonates.
mm.
All right. So what do we need more of in this world?
Love,
What do we need less of?
hate,
And what are you proud of?
myself,
And what are you looking forward to?
continuing to build on connections like this.
And what are you currently learning that you weren't able to do before?
That's so often other people in trouble or in a difficult place in life um, just need somebody's presence and like loving presence, that I don't need to fix everything, that I can just be and hold the space from love and compassion. Um, and I don't need to apply what I think of the solutions to the situation. That is a huge one for me, um, to keep exercising.
No fixing. Yeah. Guilty of it. Yeah, as well. All right. And I don't normally do this, but I feel like doing it now. Um, is there something? Is there something you f- you feel like needs to be said
Mm.
that we haven't spoken about?
Just that it's an incredible sense of support and relief that I'm experiencing right now from being able to speak from who I am because I know who you are and I know the intention that you bring to this space and keep doing it. Keep doing it. We need so much more of this and I appreciate the path that you're on and the challenges that that you're facing. Not that I need to fix them for you, but I see you in those things, and I know that it is for just the most beautiful work that you can bring to this world. So thank you.
Oh man. Yeah. The episode of tears, man. Jesus Christ. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for this.